Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining Zahn Dental's Chocolate and Chat. I'm Fran Parathyras, and I am a registered dental hygienist, also part of Zahn's education team. The excitement is building as we get closer to LMT Lab Day in Chicago. I want to introduce a great panel that I have in front of me today, who is joining me and our industry leaders who are gracious enough to share their time, their perspectives, and why they plan on joining us in Chicago. We're going to be having some great hot chocolate and some candy to kick this off in anticipation of some chilly weather over in Chicago. I would like to introduce our panel today. We have Dennis Urban from NDX, Kent Kohli from Utah Valley, Jesse Flor from Digital Dental Solutions, Jillian Swafford from Oaks Dental Designs and Ladies of the Mill, Carolyn Capps, and Vicki Thomas from She Designs. Jesse is a little delayed. I just want to let everybody know that he just landed in Dallas, and as soon as he can get to us and get some Wi-Fi, he'll be joining. I'm going to start with Dennis as far as introductions go. So Dennis, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what you're up to today?
Sure. Thank you, Fran, and thank you everybody for joining us tonight. This is probably I think it's my 45th year in the dental laboratory industry. So I'm a former laboratory owner and managed anything from a small lab to a lab that had over 150 people over the years. And I started getting into education and lecturing and teaching back in 1985. So, but I had the opportunity to travel around the world, learning, teaching, and constantly learning, really, and sharing knowledge with dentists and dental laboratories and all around Europe, Asia, and the United States and Canada. And it's been a real treasure. And I've learned a lot over the years. And I've had positions as director of marketing, sales, product manager, and managing laboratories. And right now I'm with National Dentex, and I'm doing something I really love, and it's education. So I'm the director of clinical education, educating our clinicians, bringing clinicians to teach us and our industry, and also educating dental technicians. I'm so proud to be here tonight. Thank you so much.
Well, we're so proud to have you, Dennis. Thank you so much. And we really appreciate all of your expertise, years and years of expertise that you'll be sharing with us tonight. Next,
Thank you.
How about you, Kent?
Yeah, my name is Kent Kohli, and I currently work for Utah Valley Dental Laboratory, located about a half an hour south of Salt Lake City. My role here is Chief Operating Officer and Lab Manager, and I've been here with Utah Valley not quite 4 years. I've been in the business about 32 years, and everything from previously lab owner and worked for Zahn and Noritake and some other manufacturers doing continuing education. Chicago is one of my favorite times of year. In the last 32 years, I've only missed it twice, and one of those years was due to COVID. So I'm really excited to share my passion and my enthusiasm today regarding the Chicago Midwinter meeting and why I'm going there, why we're taking our staff. So thanks for giving me this opportunity today.
Oh, we thank you so much, Kent. And again, years of expertise, and we are so looking forward to hearing what you have to say about Chicago.
Thank you.
Next, I want to speak to Jillian.
Hey, Fran, and hello, all of our friends that are joining us tonight. I'm Jillian Swafford, and I'm the owner of Oaks Dental Designs, a smaller lab in Pikeville, Tennessee. So we're a small town, no red lights, no stop signs, tiny little town. But we've been able to grow our lab as a startup lab 3 years ago. I left general dentistry after 15 years because I wanted to be with my family. Where I live, you have to drive about an hour for work every day. And after I had kids, that just didn't work. And so I told my husband I wanted to start a lab, and he said, "What's that?" And as of today, we are moving into our 1,600 square foot laboratory out of our nursery and man cave into the new building. So we've definitely progressed in the last 3 years, and I'm just super excited and very thankful for all that God's blessed us with. And we're a fully digital laboratory. Our clients are around 90% digital. So we started out with all analog, and now we're almost 90%. So we're super excited about that. And as far as the co-owner of or co-founder of Ladies of the Mill, that was just a vision as I switched over to the laboratory side. Reminder, I was from general, which is full of females everywhere. So I was very much surrounded by females when I was in general dentistry. And whenever I came to the lab side, I went to my first lab show and I was like, oh my gosh, there's nobody here. And so it just kind of rolled into this thing. And it's just, we have so many similarities being moms and wives and wearing so many hats. And so it's really just a support group for us all and just for us to learn together. And so I'm super thankful to have started that with Christina Heslip a few years ago. And we have our summit coming up this July. And it's just something that's super exciting. As far as Chicago, I remember when I first got into the industry, the first thing I was told was you have to go to Chicago. I had no idea what I was doing. I had never made a crown. And they were like, you have to go to Chicago. And so sure enough, that first year, I was actually speaking in Chicago for Dent Supply, sharing our story of a startup never making a crown in the middle of nowhere. So here we are now. Glad to be here tonight.
You are really on your way. You have a great success story. So happy that you're here sharing this with us, Jill. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Fran.
Now, I want to introduce Carolyn Capps and Vicki Thomas. She Designs.
Hey, of course. Hi, I'm Vicki Thomas. I am co-founder of She Designs Dental Studio. I've been in the industry for over 27 years. Prior to She Designs Dental Studio, I owned a laboratory for 12 years. During COVID, Carolyn and I united and we decided to create a new lab called She Designs. I am also a mother of a 24-year-old daughter who is my world. And she also inspired us for our new brand color, which is pink. She's like me, she's pink. So yeah, that's pretty much my story.
And I am Carolyn. I have been in the industry for about 29 years now, so I'm working on 30. I started at a small family-owned dental laboratory in Tampa, Florida. It was very small, and I love the owners, and I'm still friends with them today. And then I worked my way up to a larger laboratory that strictly did a lot of outsourcing. That led me to an opportunity to work in China for almost 3 years, where I learned a lot about the manufacturing over there. And then again, like she said, COVID started. And I think like a lot of people during COVID, you start thinking about, you know, am I really doing what I love? Am I really doing what I want to do? And we decided that we were going to go for it. So She Designs was born.
Oh, and then you got the blue and the white.
That is a fantastic story. Great partnership. It's beautiful that you guys found each other. I thank you so much for sharing that story with us. We wish you so much success here at Zahn. We have Jesse. Jesse Flor, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello.
Airport. So happy that you landed and you were gracious enough to still join us tonight.
Thank you. It was a bit of a challenge. We flew in a little late, but we're going to make it happen.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Will you give us a little bit of your background and what you're up to now?
Sure. I'm going to be having 22 years as a dental technician, second generation. Dad's a prosthodontist. So that's how I got involved in the industry. And right now, I still have a dental lab in California. But right now I'm doing a lot of training on site with clinics. Clinicians who are setting up their own labs or laboratory processing. So printing, milling, we're teaching them everything. Yeah,
Awesome.
we'll stop here. Yeah. So we're seeing a big change in the industry overall because of it. So that's the exciting thing, is to be able to do both lab and clinical, basically in any direction. So like I said, today I'll be in Dallas, tomorrow I'll be in Denver, Saturday I'll be in Vegas.
Wow.
So my whole business has been now national.
That's amazing. Jesse, thank you so much for giving us your background and what you're up to now. All of you, I really appreciate it. And the attendees do too. They like to hear like what everybody's up to. So that's great. This question really goes out to everybody. I want to get to some questions so that we can get going with chocolate and chat. There are a lot of new innovations that we're going to be seeing in Chicago. What are you most excited to see? We're going to go around the panel now. We'll start with you, Dennis. What are you excited to see?
Okay. Thanks, Fran. Yeah, but first of all, I'm really excited to see everybody in person. And I think I did my first lecture in person about 2 or 3 months ago. And it was so great to be in person, to have a lecture and interaction with people instead of a Zoom meeting. So I did over 100 webinars last year on Zoom, and it's so nice to be in person. So I'm excited about the camaraderie and seeing everybody in person, and to collaborate with everybody and just celebrate our what we do in the industry. But even though the labs and our NDX group are capitalizing on new technologies, many of these technologies, they continue to evolve at a rapid rate. So I'm looking for updates on digital dentures, bite splints, implant case planning software, those types of things. That's just to grow in those areas. I lecture on these all the time, but it's constantly evolving. So we have to keep up with what's going on in the industry. And I feel now, things are happening so quickly in our industry, more than ever before. The changes that have happened just in the last 4 or 5 years. And if we don't want to get left behind, we have to keep up with them. And Chicago is a great way to do that. Even with the McCormick Center, the dentist meeting there, the LMT meeting, and everything going on in between the other meetings, this is a great opportunity for all of us for education and to grow in our field. So that's pretty much what I'm looking forward to in Chicago. And hopefully the weather's good.
Yes, let's hope. Let's hope. How about you, Kent? What are you excited to see?
Well, when I was a student back in Dental Lab Technology School, my instructor wisely told me to choose the dental ceramic that I was going to use in my business going forward, based upon the continuing education opportunity that they afforded their customers. And back then I chose Creation Dental Ceramic, which was distributed by Jensen. But I did it because of the partnership with that vendor. And I quickly learned 32 years ago that the partnership with our vendors who bring products to us, who bring education to us, is just as important as any other aspect of the business. And so I learned 30 plus years ago that going to the Chicago Midwinter was the best bang for the buck of everything that I could do in the year. And I would submit to everybody that's watching today, I know my colleagues on this panel would agree, that it's your extraordinary competitive advantage, not only as a businessman, but also as a technician working for somebody else in a lab. It's a chance to go and rub shoulders with like-minded individuals, to hear their perspectives, to forge friendships that literally will span your entire career. It becomes a tradition to come back to Chicago and have a big steak over at Gibson's or whatever it is that you do with your friends. And the last aspect of course, as Dennis mentioned, is seeing all of the new innovations in the industry, all of the new technology, or just the evolution of existing technology. So that's what really I go there for. I think it puts you light years ahead of your competition when you open your eyes and don't put your head down as you work. And this is one of the best ways to open your eyes and go forward each year.
Thank you so much, Kent. Jesse, how about you?
I'm actually excited to see all the different printing wars that are kind of unveiling them. Envision Tech dropped their new models. Sprint Race coming out with theirs. Asiga's coming out with theirs. So I really see this as the next level of technology coming down the pipeline. And I think there are going to be 2 great webinars. One's by Min Tran talking about Asiga sprinters. The other I'm excited one to see is by Frozen. Evan's going to be hosting, information on all these different options. So I think that a lot of people are going to be interested in 3D printing, how to integrate it, and then how to actually make it work for you, kind of thing. And if my travels are anything, there's so much growth in this market and field that if you don't have a 3D printer, now is definitely the time to start looking into one, learning how to use it, and then leveraging it for growth. We have a ton of mills in our lab, but printing is now taking over. We're about to buy 2 more printers right now, so that will take us up to 12. And we're a small lab, but we're 3D printing everything from surgical guides to dentures, partials. We're trying to work with our Arpona for a 3D printed Valplast. Like, that's going to be a really key component of growth in the next year. So that's what I'm excited to see. And then, of course, just seeing new innovations and what they're learning on the clinical side. There's going to be a lot of dentists, I feel, going from McCormick back to Lab Day West just to see what we're up to, because they're going to be looking for skilled professionals to work with them. And that's where education is so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 3D printing is not the future, it's the now. So that's where you know, going to this meeting is going to be really be helpful for a lot of different people who want to really learn about it. So it's exciting.
Yep.
So, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think Chicago just represents so much of what everybody's already said. I mean, the networking and the relationships that are built are priceless. And I think sometimes we get trapped in our own normal bubbles that we're used to, but there are so many people there to meet that just might have that next product that changes your entire laboratory, or knows that next training that would take you to the next level. And it all starts with a conversation at a table, you know, so I really, really look forward to that every year. I think too, we have to think about the fact that we've not been there in 2 years, and we're talking about all these innovations like 3D printing 2 years ago to where we are now. We're not even in the same arena that we were 2 years ago. You know, so I definitely do agree. There's so much that has advanced in that area. And so I'm excited. There's so many more materials that are out there. And one thing I would love to see in Chicago is just almost 3D printing 101, like Jesse's talking about. There's so many labs that still aren't in that market. And I think it's just a fear factor of the unknown. You know, that was a whole new terminology to learn, you know, a completely new terminology to learn. But it's one of those things that will completely change your laboratory. So I definitely look forward to all of the camaraderie and all of the meetings. And the last thing, like Jesse said, I think sometimes we miss, like we have Chicago and then we have McCormick, but like you said, like you are in a sea of doctors who are looking for someone who can be their fix to their challenge, you know, and sometimes I think we try to stay on our side of the fence, you know, or something like that. And there's a really great opportunity sitting there if you're just willing to walk up to people and say hi, you know, so I always look forward to that.
Absolutely. Carolyn, Vicki, what do you guys look forward to learning more about or excited to see?
Well, I'm exceptionally excited because this will be my first time attending Lab Day.
Yeah.
I am guilty by saying that my birthday falls on February 20th, and every year I like to get somewhere warm. Chicago doesn't normally fit that warm. So we're looking forward to that. But also while I'm there, I'm also looking forward to walking the floor and looking at the new meals that they offer. Here at She Designs, just Carolyn and I. So we're always looking for ways to speed up the turnaround time. And now we're outsourcing all of our zirconia crowns. And so we're looking to buy a meal.
Yeah, we are one of those labs that have not got into the printing realm yet. So we're doing a lot of outsourcing with that. And I'm excited to see what's out there and trying to figure out what's going to be the best fit for our company. There's also two classes that I saw that were really interesting. Artificial intelligence with the 3Shape. I want to see how that could possibly fit in our laboratory. And I also saw another one about printing zirconia, which really, I'm looking forward to attending that as well.
Awesome. Awesome. The next question I'm going to direct over to Jill, Dennis, and Vicki. Now, we all understand the precautions in place due to COVID-19 and how that really has affected our industry. How do you feel Chicago will be different this year versus previous shows?
I'll jump in here, I guess. You know, I've thought a lot about Chicago this year. That's the white elephant in the room, obviously. I mean, we all know that it's been a topic of discussion, but you know, I was talking to someone the other day and I said, you know, I think that this year there's going to be opportunity because it's going to feel very different than years past because it will be on a smaller scale. We all know that. But I think it's going to give people opportunities to talk to people maybe that they haven't talked to before. And the attendees are going to have even more attention paid to them by each booth and by each vendor because they're not going to be so swamped with people. So I think there are also some really good things that can come out of it being a smaller show. And but at the same time, I mean, we're living our life every single day, you know, so why would this be any different? We just have to go for it and, you know, go enjoy it. But it is what it is. And it's a hard decision and we're all having to deal with it. But I do feel like that Chicago will have its own new pearls that we haven't had in the past because it's been so large before. So it'll be different, but it'll be nice.
Very good. Good points there, Jillian. And, I know, if you look at the field of dentistry, whether it be dental technology or dentists, we came back strong after COVID. We really did, all of us. And thank God for that. And we're still going strong, and I feel it's going to be a different atmosphere. We still have to be cognizant of safety, which is a good thing. We want to attend the meeting healthy and go home healthy. But on the other hand, I think many of us are ready for that in-person meeting. And I think that this will lend itself to a positive and exciting experience there at the meeting.
Absolutely. And Vicki, I know this is your first lab day, but how do you feel, from going to other shows, what Chicago will feel like and look like to you?
Honestly, I feel like, just like Dennis said earlier, I'm looking forward to just seeing people in person. I don't feel like COVID has really affected our industry like it has some, just because some of our clients I've spoken to has talked about the increase of treatment plan acceptance, because due to wearing mask as much as we have to, it dries out our mouth, so therefore it causes perio issues and causes, having to decay and all that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, but fortunately for us, it's our business has been pretty strong, because of all this. Also, I feel like due to COVID, it has given our clients the opportunity during the downtime to invest and research new technologies. So I feel like the digital workflow is more innovated in the practices now that we didn't have before COVID. That's probably, I guess I kind of took a different take than most of you guys did. You were talking about Chicago. I've not been there, but I just, in the industry itself, how it's affected, I just feel like it's really hasn't affected our industry like some industries.
So I'm a dental hygienist, and I've been to Chicago many times, but at the McCormick Center. So this will be my first lab day. So I'm very excited as well.
Yeah.
But I just want to know your thoughts on what is driving you to bring your team and yourselves to Chicago this year. And I'd like to hear from Kent, Dennis, and Jill, if you don't mind.
One of my colleagues here at Utah Valley used the term FOMO, the fear of missing out. So after 30 out of the last 32
What that
years,
meant, Kent.
What's that?
I never knew what that meant until just now.
Me either. I learned something.
I see that all FOMO. I've never known what it meant. I never
Yeah, and
looked
I
it
may
up.
have misspoken. She may not have invented it, but she certainly understands it.
Okay.
And she coined the phrase in our laboratory. But after so many years of going there, last year I was, even though I was grateful to LMT Magazine for hosting a virtual event and giving us something, I was very thankful for that, but I still felt melancholy because I remember all of the interaction that I get there. As a business owner as well, it's helped me by attending Chicago every year to avoid some of the pitfalls that other business owners have fallen into. Word of mouth and opinion is really strong in Chicago, and word travels quickly. Even though there's not a Cal Lab meeting this year, that's another thing that has always been really interesting, even if you're a small boutique laboratory. And so the thing that drives me is realizing that without this opportunity, or without taking this opportunity, I may have lost something. I may have lost a competitive advantage. In this day and age, due to CAD/CAM, everybody can produce a beautiful restoration, and due to printers and digital libraries. But the things that differentiate you from your competition are knowing how to provide excellent customer service. And we talked about pain points earlier, and you might just be the lab that can alleviate or eliminate a doctor's pain point. There's other meetings like the fixed prosthodontics meeting that's going on as well. The American College of Prosthodontists, the American Prosthodontic Society. There's lots of different meetings besides McCormick Place, LMT, and all of its educational affordings. It's a plethora. In fact, it makes your head spin when you sit down to really nail down your calendar, because there's literally 4 or 5 choices that are good choices that one could make. So for me, it's FOMO. I don't want to miss out. And I would say that if I'm speaking for my peer group, they don't want to miss out either. And this year might just be the best year to go because there are a lot of people who have chosen not to go. So FOMO.
Oh, like that. Did you want me to continue?
Yes, please. do.
I see a polling question that just popped up here, so I just.
Yeah, I sent a poll out to see if people are going and why they're going.
All righty. But for me, I think the number one thing going to Chicago this year, it's always been, is education and keeping up with new technologies, and and also learning how to provide dentists and patients with the best restorative solutions. That's what I try to learn, because you do a lot of case planning. I still do a lot of case planning with different doctors from anywhere from DSOs to small practices, and so I want to keep in mind the best restorative solution for them, and while keeping them also in mind what's best for the best direction for growth, in our laboratories, and also professionally. And that's important, and Kent mentioned the prosthodontics meeting, and I love that meeting. I had, as chair of the NBC the last couple of years, I was there, I think it was 2 years ago, to the pros meeting before COVID, and I was really impressed to see that it was a dental technician who was the president of the Prosthodontics Association there. So it was really, really impressive. But I think that communication with the doctors, and I think Jillian touched on this earlier, communication with the doctors and at these different meetings is crucial, because we have to get them in their comfort zone on a lot of these procedures, because they're still trying to learn a lot and they're depending on us to do that, and to partnering with us to get those cases that will result in patient acceptance and patient satisfaction.
Absolutely.
For me, just all honesty here. Like, I'm still on the fence as far as my plane tickets are non-refundable. And so I'm like, am I going to go up, and what day am I going to go up? Because I'm normally there Wednesday through Sunday. It's a whole week.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, am I going to go up on Friday, Saturday, and just try to still make it? And how am I going to fit it all in? And, but I look at the lady that works with me, she has never been either. She's actually newer to the field. She started in the field when she came on with me. And so just being able to, we're, like I said, a small town. I have to drive a long way to a mall. Okay. So I have to drive an hour to UPS. We don't have opportunities like this just in our backyard. And so for us to be able to go to one centralized location and have everything at our fingertips, it's so nice. I can search on my phone all day long, and I can watch YouTube videos all day long, and there's just something tangible at Chicago that's just really nice. And just to be able to talk to somebody at a table, not the sales rep on my phone or the sales rep when she's presenting to me, but talking to her at the table later on, or talking to that actual end user, at dinner that night, that can tell me, I used this in the past, but this is what I switched to, and this is why I like it, and this is why it worked for me. Those have saved me so many headaches before, and I'm sure I could pick up more of those by going again this year. So I love to learn from my colleagues. If somebody's been there and done that, by all means, help me not fall on my face with the same thing.
That's the best part, learning from our peers, right? So
yeah. I wanted to add to that, Jillian, a little hint of what to do there. I call it my hit list. I have a list of all the courses I want to go to, all the vendors I want to see at both the McCormick Center and LMT and the prosthodontics meeting, and even doctors. And so I plan everything out, because otherwise it can get overwhelming. There's so much to do there, and you can get sidetracked real easy too. So
and I come back sick like every year, long before COVID, but it's because I have ran at 110 from early in the morning till you're ready to go to bed finally, and you're just exhausted. There's so much to take in, and so to think about missing it is very hard.
Thank you. This next question goes out to Jesse, Carolyn, and Dennis. What do you feel are the most important innovations in equipment and materials this year? Jesse, you want to join us first?
Yeah.
He's having a little technical.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry.
That's okay.
Well, one of the biggest things I'm excited about is seeing all these new materials that are being used for hybrid cases. I've been using the Onyx with Split Ray. We've done about 300 cases, and so far looking good. Flexera has there. So it's a lot of the new, I guess, materials that are coming out on the market that allow us to deal with more cases creatively than maybe with milling or zirconia. So it's that flexibility. We mentioned DSOs. Working with a couple of DSOs where we're creating like a recurring charge program where patients can get like titanium bars and then a printed overlay replaced every year. So we're looking at different ways of doing the same level of work. The next phase of innovation is the new milling strategies. A lot more companies are coming out with better ways of handling traditional materials to make it far more efficient and cost effective for labs to operate around scale. So those are a couple of things I'm excited. The biggest one though is AI. That is going to have a huge impact on our industry because I've seen some stuff in the work, I have MBAs on it, but especially for digital dentures, it's going to really take it to that next level of automation that's going to allow for faster workflow for everything. So that's what I'm excited about.
Excellent, thank you.
And Jesse, that's a good point with the AI, you know, it's just, and you're talking about smile design and having patients see what they're going to be looking like after the restorations are finished, you know. So we come so far, you know, even with printing technologies, both with the design and printing capabilities, you know, the materials utilized with this technology are advancing so rapidly. So I'm excited about seeing that, you know, from sleep appliances all the way to removable technology, you know, and but I also love the real-time case planning software that is available, and it gives us the ability to analyze iOS scans with the clinician while the patient is still in the chair, you know. So all these things are at our fingertips, and it's amazing what we can do now, you know. We didn't have this years ago, you know, and yeah.
The one thing, sorry to interrupt,
yeah, no, that's fine.
like I was in California a couple hours ago. I was doing that same type of consultation for a doctor in Tennessee while the patient was in the chair. And then as I'm flying over on, you know, being online, I'm helping design cases. So I'm no longer fixed to the bench. I can really work whenever, wherever I want kind of thing. Like right now I'm just waiting for Uber, but you have that freedom of movement that very few people had before. And I think that's one thing I'm thankful for the pandemic, is it kind of made it a little easier for people to adopt new technologies and new ways of doing things that before they might have been a little hesitant to jump on board on.
Yeah.
We've talked about that at our lab. Like, we're so small, we don't have a lot of doctors locally. So a lot of ours are just all over the country. And I still do lunch and learns. I can send them lunch and we do a webinar. So, you know, I do a lunch and learn that way, but technology is just, it's unlimiting right now. It's crazy.
A little bit hard to take it all in. That's why I'm looking forward to going to Chicago so much, because with the printers, there's so much you can do with them. So I need to find out once we get our printers, what's going to work best with what we want to do. What do I want to have 2 printers for 2 different products? Do I have 1 printer? So I'm going to go around to all the printing and talk to everybody and figure it out. And then I'm go to all my colleagues and friends and get some more advice on people who've experienced these printers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'll help you out with that. I got enough printers to spare.
See,
Oh,
well,
yeah.
you have some friends backing you up there, Carolyn. Excellent, excellent. This next question will go out to Vicki, Ken, and Jesse. So tell me, what technologies and practices and workflows are you specifically looking to learn about from this show?
Just do it. Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to start if you
please.
like. So it's not so much new workflows or new technologies as much as the evolution of existing technologies that may lead to new manufacturers or new participants. One of the things that I really like about the dental lab industry and Lab Day in Chicago is that when our vendor partners and manufacturers are forced to compete, we're ultimately the winners in that. And, you know, people like Jesse, who specialize in digital, and people like Dennis, who specialize in digital dentures and how to utilize those things to be some part of our workflow in the lab. So for me, going to Chicago and checking out what's the latest and greatest from digital dentures, and are we really there this year? I know we said we were there a couple of years ago, and the verdict hasn't really been in, but maybe this year there's something new that will streamline or simplify the workflow so that it's more viable for almost every type of laboratory, whether you're small, medium, or large. The other thing that I'm particularly of interest in is that I think one of the hottest topics in the dental lab business, and that's all on X. And everybody who's got in early on that is probably doing well and really enjoying that. But there's continually, as Jesse mentioned, there's new materials to utilize as part of our restorative process. I'm anxious to see what the newest thing is this year, or maybe it's a better way to handle or work with a previous product like Pecton or something. But the last aspect, not to go on, but the last aspect for me is my vendor partners are so important to me, and having worked on both sides of the fence and knowing how much value is placed on customers from companies like Zahn, and this isn't a paid infomercial, it's just my personal experience. I really look forward to this opportunity to see they're constantly thinking about new and better ways, more efficient, more profitable workflows for us. And I'm excited to see what Zahn is rolling out in their ballroom this year. I'm excited to see what GC has for me and Ivoclar and some of the other vendors that really are an integral part of what we do.
Another thing Vicki and I are concerned about, we want to learn more about in Chicago, is I've noticed that there's like an FDA compliance that goes along with the printing of dentures and making sure you're compliant with all the regulations. And so that's another thing that I want to make sure that we are in the know about too, before we buy the next printer, and make sure we can stay compliant with that.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My next question goes out to Carolyn, Kent, and Jesse again. I'd like to know the steps that you take when you learn about something new. How do you implement that into your lab?
Well, if I go to this, learn about the FDA compliance, and I want to come back and make sure that the printer I buy is FDA compliant, I'll make sure I have all the information that I need and I have it all documented. I have a background in regulatory compliance, so I kind of have an idea of how it's going to go. But I also sat with one of the companies I work for in front of the FDA while they went through everything to make sure that that laboratory was compliant. So I know it is a vital, integral part of that when you're faced with FDA compliance and in the laboratories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's a process of understanding how the system works, or a workflow or process. So you have to be able to break it down and make it absorbable for staff members. Everyone's going to have a different learning speed. I also like to use the idea of like muscle memory, that when you break it down to manageable pieces, they can apply it, especially directly. It's an applied workflow. And then the next thing is making sure that they understand the principle behind it. You know, a lot of companies in Chicago like to sell it as a hyped up, it's so simple and 6-year-olds can do it. And for a lot of us that are at the beginning of this, it's not that easy. So making sure that we both understand it at its basic principles and then apply it, troubleshoot it, and then explain it to our staff members is really key in this kind of approach. If not, you're going to get frustrations, and then people will not adopt, and then your investment can turn down to nothing kind of thing. And that's really, really detrimental, especially with smaller labs.
I was having a hard time hearing everything that Jesse said, but I think what he was talking about is proving things out and making sure that you have a fundamental understanding. And that's the way that we do it as well. My colleague Jim is our chief financial officer, and we always have to have a return on the investment, whether that's labor savings or material savings or some kind of time savings. And so it's important to us not to get emotionally attached to it. That's a little bit difficult because my heart still very much is grounded in dental laboratory technology, but we really try to vet things out. We try to bounce things off of our peer group, Matt Roberts, the Rigo brothers, Brian Linkey, Dennis, and others. And I'm always curious in what their opinion is. And I really like to vet out kind of all the sales pitch, talk on social media about it. Everyone's willing to talk about it. If you throw something out there, you'll usually get pretty raw information. Then you kind of have to sift through that and say, okay, what kind of lab are they? But we typically come back, do our due diligence, experimenting with the product after we get a really comprehensive educational experience from someone such as Dennis over a webinar or whatever. There's no shortage of that. Origin has been really great with printers with our laboratory, and they've been an incredible partner for that reason. And then really the dollars and cents have to add up. And that doesn't matter if you're 1, 2, 3, 15, or 105 people like we are. The dollars and cents have to add up. There has to be some kind of a gain, and it's either in time savings or financial or material, and usually a combination of those things.
Thank you. So I really want to touch a little bit further on 3D printing and the advancements in 3D printing. Would you like to share some of your best experiences and challenges with the industry? So I'd like this to go out to all that are 3D printing right now. Dennis, would you like to start?
Oh, yeah, well, I'll tell you, as far as printing goes, if you asked me 3 or 4 years ago about 3D printing, I would say for me, it was hard to accept. It is as a total dental solution, for the removable side of technology, and because of the integrity of the materials, and my removable background, like Kent, I appreciate the kind words there, about the education. And, I took a lot of time learning this industry, and specializing in removables. And I always wanted to put out a product that was going to be the best that could possibly be. And at that point, 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't think I could do that with printed technology. But I have to be honest with you, it's come a long way, and the integrity of the materials, we have come so far with this evolvement of this technology. And I feel we have acceptable solutions now, in removable technology with digital dentures and with implant technology. Like Kent mentioned before, we can do things differently. I was just lecturing 3 days last week at the Wichita, Kansas AGD meeting. And we talked about how, what we went through doing chairside conversions, a number of years ago, and how easy it is now. Everything's so predictable. And now with these types of cases, and the materials are much better too. So we have a lot of choices out there. But not only, I'm looking for solutions, and I think we have them now, not only with digital dentures, with hybrid cases and overdentures too, and other full arch solutions. So it's getting better all the time, and I'm excited about it, and it's happening fast, because look what happened in the last 3 or 4 years with printed technology. Even with bite splints and mouth guards and things like that, which is a big part of our business, even at NDX, and it's exciting. After all these years in this industry, I'm still excited about what's going on and where it's going.
I was kind of going to say the same thing. 3D printing has kind of opened up the new opportunities for fixed laboratories to be able to offer additional products. With us being a Crown and Bridge laboratory, we're able to offer mouth guards, printed dentures, surgical stents, custom trays, etc. So it's definitely opened up more opportunities for us.
Absolutely.
I love how 3D printing, oh, sorry.
No,
You want to go ahead?
Okay, go ahead.
I was going to say that the biggest thing about 3D printing is that it's, in a sense, democratized the entire process for what we can do. A Crown and Bridge lab can now offer surgical products. A fixed lab can offer denture. We can work with doctors. I have some doctors, they don't want to invest in a printer, but they want me to produce their own designs for them. So it creates new levels of products and services we can offer that before we had no option of doing. I think it's really creating a new driving force for adoption that we didn't have before. Like I started back in the early days of CEREC, and people are like, oh, you can only do it for inlays and onlays. Now it's such an array, you just need to have the material in the tanks that the sky's the limit. I've gone to the doctor's offices where they're 3D printing toys out for the patients, for being good in compliance kind of thing. We never would have thought of that before kind of thing, but it's a good marketing pull. For my own doctors, I like printing out models for them that before I'd have to have dedicated technicians making for them. Now I can just set up a batch, print them overnight, put my logo on it, and then send them out kind of thing. And it makes it a lot easier for marketing purposes. So there's multiple levels of integration that help at any business model in any size and function. And that's what I find really liberating about 3D printing.
Mm-hmm.
Jill?
For me, I think, we were outsourcing our models for all of our digital work. And I looked at my ROI and I was like, why have I not bought a printer? Like, this is crazy. Because you just look at how whenever you can bring it in-house, how different that makes everything for you. And those were some of the best experiences. I mean, and like Jesse said, being able to market, like I put made in America or made in the USA on I print that on every model that goes out. It doesn't cost me anything extra to put that on there really. So that's another marketing thing that every picture I take, it'll, have our stuff on there. And, so we use it in a lot of ways like that. But as far as challenges, I want to hit some of those that I've had in 3D printing, which is material validation and understanding what that word means and the importance of that word.
Yep.
It's underrated.
Yeah.
So you're talking about vegan materials, right?
I'm telling you, like understanding that your printer has capabilities, but it also has limitations, and understanding what printers are being the fastest validated based on where you're wanting to grow. I think that is one thing that is not always spoken about in all areas of that. So I think that was a big challenge for me, as well as terminology. So when we're talking with doctors and even with other labs and with training, and you're watching these videos, everybody calls everything something different. And so getting on the same page with your terminology and making sure that your doctors understand that, yes, it's not a carbon printer, but that doesn't make it any less better for the application you're wanting. The marketing strategies that we've used, just like CEREC is not the only scanner and in-office mill out there, but the marketing strategy, people come in and ask for a CEREC crown, right? The same concept happens with this 3D printing stuff and with these materials that the doctor may think is the best material suited for what they're wanting because of the marketing strategy behind it, when there really may be something very much more suitable to what they want. But that's where it comes to us being educated enough to communicate that to them and be that bridge for them that can be the expert for them on that.
Yeah, that's actually really, really true. That's one of my biggest. I was just saying it's one of the biggest challenges because I do work, I travel all over and I see these doctors getting products from laboratories. And I also feel that it's such a Wild West market right now with 3D printed materials that doctors aren't really being aware of what they're being sent with. I went to a charity clinic where they're getting basically Dentex printed dentures that really aren't better for much more, in my opinion, immediates or healing dentures, but they're being sold to the patients as permanent restorations that could last 5 or more years. And I said, without, going back to validation, there really isn't any material that's been tested along those lines for that period of time. So I do agree with this. There needs to be more education, more openness about these processes and how validations are occurring, because it's not really us that suffer. We might take a hit on a case or lose an account, but it's the patients that could end up having defects or any other issues along those lines. And that's something that I feel that 3D printing companies really have to work on, that level of education, so we can standardize it across the board.
And I think we all have to remember we're all in a new venture with this arena. And so we don't want to act like we don't know. The doctors don't want to act like they don't know. So we're like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. And we really don't. And like you said, Jesse, the patient suffers in the end. So just being able to have those open, honest conversations with our doctors to say, let's make sure we're on the same page here, because it happens all the time.
I would add one last point for 3D printing. Once upon a time, about 4 years ago, I managed a large all-on-X laboratory that specialized. We did 180 arches a month, and we guided 180 full arches a month. And, there's some big hitters in the 3D printing market, and they make a lot of promises, and they may not even be affiliated with the dental lab industry in general. But downtime is a huge thing, and Jesse, I'm sure, can tell us all how important that is to him. And you really learn, sometimes, unfortunately, after the fact, what kind of partner you really shook hands with after the point of sale. And I think the Chicago Midwinter meeting is a huge opportunity for people who are considering an imminent purchase. Maybe that's weeks or months or days. But to go and to get to know those people, to peel back the layers and the sales pitch, to talk to other labs and say, hey, I'm really considering these 2 products. What is your experience with it? And you'll find those people hovering around the vendors of those printers. And I will submit to you that I've had some really negative experiences in my career, and I've had some really positive ones. And buyer beware, listen to what the industry has to say. And Chicago is a great place to come to do that. And And when you leave, you know, you can post questions on social media. I love the CEREC users group. I love that if you have an issue, you can post a question and usually have a couple dozen or a few dozen replies. And we're not a CEREC lab necessarily, but I really like that aspect. So choose your vendor wisely. And Chicago is a great place to get to know who your vendor is and if they'll be there for you in your point of time of need and if they're going to have your back. And just one last point, validated systems. All of us have kind of touched on that. Validated systems are there for a reason. I worked on the manufacturing side much like Dennis, and it's not always about selling you a closed system so that you'll buy their resin. It's also because they know how it's going to behave with their product. So don't necessarily discount a vendor that has a closed system. There may be a real viable reason for that. And you'll come to find that out in your hour of need.
True.
This question's for everybody. Jesse talked about printing at night, you know, leaving the lab and printing at night. With digital technology, that is a possibility. So I just want to know if this digital form has changed your personal life in terms of time at the bench and time out of the lab. And this question goes to anyone.
Well, okay, so I'm working on trying to create a roboticized lab. So basically using cobots and different tools to automate as many different processes as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I've always looked at my mills and 3D printers as extensions of that. Just to give you an example, my lab is based in Southern California. I've been in California in the last almost 2 months, only about 7 days. Everything has been done by my staff to help keep an eye on everything, but we're basically take that level where I can travel, visit clients, do lectures and trainings in person and kind of leave the machinery still running. So eventually it's going to develop into that kind of process where I can see it as being an autonomous entity. And I know there are other companies that are kind of trying to automate that because even in a dental office, yes, they might have someone processing printings, but it still takes that person time and money and effort to do that. So that's kind of the goal in my end view is to have it automated to that point. But it's a great tool. It allows me more time to travel, allows me more time to see my friends. Like I said, the coolest thing was going to Utah for training, having lunch in Vegas, and then going to California and still having the lab producing money and being responsible that way. And it's a cool feeling to have that. And that's, I think, what we love about machinery and robotics is that it allows us to do that.
Awesome. How about anybody else? Has digital technology been able to free up some time for you out of the lab, away from the bench?
I feel like it has. It has, because when you print the digital models, it totally cuts out the whole model room process. And I know Caroline appreciates that. It looks like she's been baking biscuits when she's been.
Yes.
Yeah, no more.
Say no to plaster.
Yeah, so of course with that, when you cut out the model room, you cut out, you know, time, so you have quicker turnaround. So it does help. Unfortunately, we get it done quicker, so we do more work. So I don't know if it gets us away from the bench, but it does help cutting out a process. It does a step.
I would echo the Carolyn's sentiments. I don't think it's a bad thing that you get to do more work unless you're punching the clock more. But you know, I once upon a time I was a small 1, 2, and 3 man lab, and eventually 7. Now I have 105 colleagues here at Utah Valley. And what it's done is it's leveraged our time. It may not be the entire process, but it's leveraged us to grow the business and still deliver the same level of excellence. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are all digital, and then there's some that are all analog. And I would submit to all of us that it's somewhere in between there. And what digital has done for us is allow us to spend the most time on those things that make the biggest difference. We should be able to take form, fit, function, occlusion, contacts for granted, but the artistry, it's allowed us to spend the time on the artistry, which differentiates us from our competition. So I think you can pick and choose. I don't think what works for me doesn't have to work for Jesse or Dennis or Carolyn. You can pick and choose, and now you can kind of have your cake and you can eat it too with digital workflows.
True. It's true. Well, I just wanted to add, you know, with me, I'm more dedicated to the educational and teaching aspect of dentistry now, both clinically and in the laboratory. And I, at this point in my career, but I believe that the digital platform has enabled me to further my horizons and expand my opportunities in many areas of dental technology. You know, my lecturing, teaching, and intricate case planning also. But not only that, just getting the message across even to our technicians, our large lab group here, and our clinicians. You know, we have to be honest with our clinicians, like somebody mentioned before about, you know, even with this printing technology, we want to get them in their comfort zone with this. And we have to get them, you know, believing in what we believe in, and hopefully that we got that correct information, like Kent mentioned, from the manufacturer and from the vendor, you know, because education is key. Education is a key aspect of all success in this industry.
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly say, like, when you first asked that question, Fran, like I felt tears kind of welling up in my eyes because digital dentistry changed my life. I mean, I went from working 9 to 5 at the office every day, working for somebody else, to working for myself. And I could have never done that had it not been for digital dentistry. And, you know, we were at our speakers retreat, you know, 3 weeks ago, and Carolyn and Vicki were there, and they're pulling up cases on their computers, you know, checking them off while we're there. And a couple of the attendees from Oklahoma are doing the same thing. And just like Desi said, you know, I'm there teaching that course all weekend, but every evening I can jump on my computer and check my stuff off, and it can get mailed back home. I mean, it opens up so many more doors. And I think it can be very fearful in the beginning. We know the costs that are associated, and we know the jump and the leap that it takes to do it, but it is a whole new world of freedom that so many people have not been able to experience in this lab industry for years.
And even if you're not comfortable with the design aspect of things, you can always send the case out to a designer for you, you know, at a minimal cost, really, you know, which is great.
Outsource,
Yep.
Absolutely. Be able to outsource
Yep.
that.
I did that in the beginning. I mean, I outsourced so many of my things, and then you just take little pieces, you know, and you eat an elephant a bite at a time. And that's
We're hoping, yeah.
how we do it.
Yeah, we're hoping to make that transition in Chicago this year. Yeah. Bring home this kid.
So we're saying no to plaster, right, ladies?
No to plaster.
I still have nightmares about plaster and stone.
Yeah.
One thing I was going to add too is one of the several vendors that I've had a digital partnership with actually provide me with analytics. They can tell me how efficient that I am or am not. They can tell me how much uptime I have, how well am I taking advantage of my build plate and the total number of hours. We have a finite number of hours in a day. So the digital workflow gives us analytics as business owners that frankly, we usually don't have somebody within our business who can provide us with that data. And it's an invaluable resource. So again, when you're choosing a partner, look at how they can serve you from a business aspect as well.
All right, so everyone partner with Ken so you can get those analytics as well.
I wish.
Well, as you can see, you know, our theme for Zahn this year at Chicago Lab Day is Digiverse. And that means that you'll be able to see and learn about everything digital that you can imagine. At our grand ballroom E and F, we will have a host of industry experts, you know, giving some really great education for all of the attendees. So please register, you know, if you haven't. Take a look and see if there are any courses that interest you. As well as we have a few table clinics going on as well that will be hands-on demonstrations from design, you know, to print. So that's pretty, you know, exciting as well. We also will have many of our technical support team there for any questions that you might have on any piece of equipment or workflow that you could imagine. I know that they are really good people and they are very educated. Believe me, I work with them every day and I'm really proud to call them part of our team. If equipment is top of your list, please take a look at, you know, everything that we have to offer in the ballroom. If you know already what you're interested in, you can take advantage of Chicago's Lab Days promotions before actually going to the show, because they are starting to be in effect. Just call your Zahn representative and they'd be able to help you out with that, of course, as well as asking them about our Flex Financial program. which really can make any piece of equipment very affordable. It could really cut down on your expense, and they can show you and tell you exactly how to do that. I would like to take a moment right now just to thank this beautiful panel that I have in front of me today. We cannot thank you enough for your time, especially your time, your commentary, and your insight. And I know that all of you are so very busy, especially, I mean, look at Jesse just flying in and walking to the airport just to be with us today. So I am so thankful that you all joined us. And you're all,
Jesse, somebody's volunteering to pick you up from the airport.
I know, right? That's so sweet. Actually, the car's already waiting for me. I already got the notification. I'm like, yeah, we're okay. We're almost done. This is the traveling life I'm used to.
so I want to thank
Sweet.
everybody again, and to all of our attendees, thank you for joining Chocolate and Chat, and we will all see you in Chicago. Come to the ballroom and say hi. Thank you.
Yeah,
again.
everyone.
Thank you all.
Have a
Safe
great
travels,
day.
Everybody,
Jesse.
thank you.
Bye.
Good night now.
Bye-bye.
See you soon, Dennis.
Take care. See you, Kent.